All right, so in today's lesson, we're going to be going over the importance of short-term rental contracts for rental arbitrage specifically. These are very important things that you need to put inside of your contract so that not only protects you, but also protects the landlord that you're going to be working with. It is a mutually beneficial contract, and we always have a conversation with the landlord to show the value of that contract. Always lead with value. One of the very first things that we always put in our contract is to have a 30-day notice of vacancy, which allows us to break the contract within 30 days notice if the property does not perform to the standards that we projected it to perform to. So the reason I bring this up is because we have this contract and we have to utilize it for the property that we just showed you in the last module, where we underwrote in detail on the property. That property took a swing to the south due to the market shift in the area, and the projections no longer are what they were supposed to be. So because of that happening, we have a 30-day notice that allows us to get out of that without getting too deep in over our heads. So we're not just blowing and burning all of our money out. So that is the importance of that. Put that in your contract. And if you have to take a deal without that, that is totally your choice, but I strongly recommend that you consider that thoroughly. Another thing, if you are
Well,
getting,
wait, let me just fill in one thing there for
sure,
you. Typically what we will put in, because the landlord's not going to let you vacate without doing anything. So typically we will allow them to keep our security deposit if we do 30-day notice. So if we're breaking the lease
mm,
and we're not
yeah,
able to fulfill the full lease, instead of having to go through like penalties or, dealing with like them trying to make us pay for the rest of the lease, we give them our security deposit and then we're able to leave. So it is something they still get, but it really saves us a lot of hassle.
all right. So next on the list that we always need to include into the contract is a provided list of furniture if the landlord and owner of that property is providing any at all. Some properties that we've got have been fully furnished, and then we've had partially furnished properties as well. So if there's any furniture that is being supplied for your stay and for the duration of that lease, get that in writing. Make sure that it is very clear what that is. Also, get a very specific rule set from what the landlord wants from that property, what you're allowed to do, what he doesn't mind allowing you to do, and also what he prohibits, just so you're respecting him and his property and the rules and everything that he wants in regards to that. You guys are partners. You have to realize that you are utilizing his house as an office space to run your business. That's it. Next, you need to break down with clarity who's paying what when it comes to expenses. In regards to arbitrage, we have it in our clause that we will not pay over $500 for any major breakage and or expense. And so say we had a plumbing issue at a property and the pipes leaking in the sink at the in the kitchen. If it's under $500, that is our required expense that we have to underwrite and account for. But with the war chest that we build up, we tap into that and it covers the expense and it should be good for the rest of the lease. That's the goal. But be very, very, very clear that it is very understood anything above that and or major structural damages like a roof issue or a plumbing issue that is a full pipe burst. Certain markets are susceptible to the freezing cold, and that does happen. We actually had it happen in Austin. The pipe didn't burst, but it was a threat, and we got very close to having to deal with that situation. And we had to make sure that the landlord was aware that it was going to be his cost, not ours. Also, probably the most important thing outside of the 30-day notice, you need to have an addendum and a very specific clause that states you are allowed to utilize this property for business purposes to operate as a short-term rental. You will sign your LLC number and, if at all possible, use that, not your personal name. But you have to be allowed to sublet that property. You cannot sign a contract without that, no matter what. And I'll throw in a little tidbit at the end. Try to avoid properties that have HOAs as best as possible. Not all properties are bad if they are HOA, but 9 times out of 10, from all the experience that we've seen and or heard, they're not fun to deal with and or they'll pull the plug on you without even a warning. So I just recommend staying away from that whatsoever. So that is contracts for STRs. We will provide a link to our contract. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out. we're here to answer and help.